last class, that is last week Thursday, we covered the clustering algorithms, the k-means we already covered last week, but we before that, but we covered dbScan. So we are mostly done with the clustering chapter. So, but now what I'm going to show you, as some of you have shown some interest. You had some plans of doing the project based on data science, or data mining. So that is why I just wanted to show you the practical application or implementation using Python libraries for this clustering algorithm. So mostly k-means and dbScan. I'm going to show you the Python implementation. So just I would like to communicate that if you are not familiar with the Python programming language, then just that's fine. But in any case, some of you are interested of doing any future projects, so it may be helpful to you. So today's class session, there won't be any assignments or any tests based on that. So I'll just show you how it is, how uh, these concepts are implemented using the Python programming. There are different libraries in the Python programming language. How easily using those libraries and the syntaxes or the concepts of Python language or those library details, how we can implement those clustering and how easier it is to do clustering. It may be in terms of k-means or maybe dbScan. So how easier it is to do that. So for that you can, as you see, can you see the screen? In the screen your Blackboard page is available. So just go on to the chapter 7 clustering. So first you will find the presentation file that was already available since last week. But now the second link will give you the detailed steps. So as we are going to implement it using the Python programming language, so you need an IDE or integrated development environment, a tool to do such type of programming. Okay, so for that IDE, if you are familiar to Jupyter Notebook, that's fine. But if you are new to it, you can view this video. I have uploaded a YouTube video, which is just the video lasts for about few minutes. You can watch it, and if you are interested, you can install Jupyter Notebook and see the code. Which code? Here is the code. The third link that you see, tutorial A scikit-learn and clustering.ipynb. So this is your Jupyter Notebook file. We are going to go through it now. So if you don't have the Jupyter Notebook in your laptop, in your computer, then first you need to install it, then only this file will work. But as I have already installed, so I'm able to show it to you here. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, just one moment. Okay, so when you install the Jupyter Notebook and open the file that I uploaded in Blackboard, it will look like this. Okay, you may be new to such type of programming, so mostly any research. So see the machine learning or the data mining, data science. So these are all research oriented topics. So any research oriented concepts, it's easier to implement using Python mostly because there are so many libraries available. Some people also implement it using the programming language R. Okay, so if you are comfortable with the programming language R, then you will also be able to implement this. Instead of Python, you can use R also. So here, whatever you are seeing in this page, in the Jupyter Notebook file, this is the Python programming language. Okay, so scikit-learn, actually it's a library which has different functions which are really helpful and necessary for the data science or data mining concepts. So scikit-learn gives us the flexibility of using different types of functions, methods, or other features which makes it easier to implement the concepts such as clustering that you are seeing here. Like clustering, there are other types of methodologies as well. So let's see the first one. You see this is a code. If I proceed, I will scroll down, you will see different cells. So the first cell has certain number of statements or instructions here. So in order to use a defined library or a function, particular function, you need to import. You need to call or import the library in which the function is defined. So to do that, first here you see import numpy as np, import matplotlib, import matplotlib.py, plot as plot. So these are the three different libraries. So numpy is really helpful for calculations purpose, and for any type of plots that you want to visualize, the matplotlib is really helpful. Matplotlib and matplotlib pyplot. So PLT is a like an intermediate word or a temporary word that you are just defining. Instead of matplotlib.pyplot, you can use PLT throughout your program, because the matplotlib.pyplot is lengthier. So that is why we are just making a short form of that PLT. Then to set up the font size, you don't have to be worried about this because there are so many notations in Python. It is really difficult to keep track of them. So for now, just remember this plt.rc params. So access label size, xtick label size, ytick label size, 14, 12, 12. So this is actually helpful for defining the font size of the x-axis, y-axis and other axis in the plot. If you see this plot here, so after I run the code, the plot is visualized in this format. So in the x-axis, you have some values ranging from 2 to 12 that you see, and feature x2 in the y-axis, it has a set of values starting with negative values up to positive 6. And all the points that you see, the blue, then the purple or the green color, so these are nothing but the data points. So first, in order to have this type of plot, you need to provide certain input to your code. So how to do that? See here. Here I have just used a toy dataset which has 300 samples with 2 features and 3 clusters mostly. So there are 2 features shown in 2 axes and 3 clusters are shown in 3 different colors. So x, y, here what you are trying to do for x-axis, y-axis values, you are defining 2 different data sets, and you are importing the sklearn.datasets import makeblobs. So the makeblobs function is useful to create a data set for the data that is x and y. If I have not printed it here, but if you just mention, let's say just mention x, let me run it. It's taking some time. Okay, it's loaded now. Yeah, see, so when I printed x, so it created an array or set of values. Okay, so like this, if I will put y here, y will also have this type of array created, and using these values, you will be able to plot it in this way that you see. So after creating the data set with x and y labels, now create a 2D plot for the data points, a two-dimensional plot. So the figure, you are defining a one figure and the figure size is 8:6, the width and the height. And a function CLF to properly place the figure in the 2D dimension. Now, to have the data points in this format, you can use the scatter function. And then in the scatter function, what you are trying to do, you are just using the X data set, okay? And X data set first column and the second column, using them, you are just trying to plot the data in this way, in the plot that you see. This is a basic matplotlib plot. Now let's see k-means clustering. Okay, so if you remember how the k-means algorithm actually works. So if you remember that this is the k-means algorithm mostly does our clustering operation. So to process the learning data, any data set, the k-means algorithm starts with a first group of randomly selected centroid or mean points of given certain points. So which are used as the beginning points for every cluster, and then it will perform iterative or repetitive calculations to optimize the positions of the centroid. If you remember the basic methodology of how the k-means clustering works. So this is whatever you see here, it has been already programmed, and how easier using just simple function, a simple k-means function, you can just call the function and implement the clustering algorithm. So let's see that. So let's now run the k-means algorithm. Here, first, how many clusters do you need? So to set that, you are defining this variable n plus as 3. So clusters as 3, number of clusters. Now to define the k-means classifier. So first to do clusters, you need a k-means function. So what is that k-means function? So the classifier is stored in km underscore CLF, and see the function is defined in the sklearn.cluster library, Python programming library. So that is why before using k-means function, you need to import it first. Now k-means function, it needs see the area highlighted that I highlighted, I selected. So the k-means function actually needs a set of parameters, correct? So what are those parameters? So there are different types of parameters, different format of the function. So one type of basic function k-means I have considered. So n class is the number of clusters. Then how do you want to initialize it? This is a random variable. Okay, something else you can also use, but as we have not covered k-means plus plus, so don't worry about that for now. For initialization, it is used for how many, and another one parameter which is again meaningful for the k-means, how many number of iterations you want to run the k-means, and these are some other parameters. So for now, just ignore them. So actually the random state 36, why it is needed? If you okay, if you are familiar to Python, if you remember that to create a set of random numbers, we use a function and fix those random numbers each time you run the code. So for that you are using this random set parameter, so that each time your output will not vary. Now next thing is that you need to predict certain values. So how to predict? You can apply the fit predict function using the kmclf variable that you got, the classifier you got through the k-means function, and here the input will be the x, the data set x that I was showing you before. So why predict is found out. Now here that you see distortion and Silhouette samples. So if you remember, there are different parameters. I think we have covered the Silhouette. So there are different parameters, inertia and Silhouette. Let me just explain about them. So Actually, when you train the model, so basically one expert knowledge is required or analysis is required to decide the number of clusters that should be needed. How many clusters do you want to make? And it is really difficult as the dimension of the data increases. Let's say you have a huge data set, and there are two simple and most popular method of doing this. So what are those? Those two methods are inertia and Silhouette score. So inertia is actually defined as the mean square distance between each instance or each data point and then its closest centroid or the mean point. Okay, every point to its mean or the center point in that defined cluster. And logically, how do we consider the inertia? So as per the definition, the lower the inertia value is better for our model, any machine learning model. And Silhouette score, how it is defined? It is used for this measure. Silhouette score is defined for to decide the number of clusters to be formulated from the data, and it is calculated for each instance. And how it is calculated actually, let me just write it here. So suppose you have data set or data points, two data points. So the formula will be like x minus y for finding out the score of each of the data point in the defined data set. That will be divided by max of x and the y points. Okay, so this is the basic formula which is used for Silhouette, and you don't have to write the formula here. That formula is being already implemented through this function. See, I am highlighting Silhouette samples. Okay, so that function already has that formula. So that was the definition of these two measures, which is used basically to define number of clusters which is required for your data set. Again, the figure size, and we are using the scatter function to have the plots like this. So again, this first one, see the first one I'm highlighting, it will just create the points inside the plot. And suppose you also want the means or the centers of each cluster. So do you see a star in here in each of the three clusters? These stars are nothing but the centers or the centroid of each cluster. Okay. Why we are keeping track of the centers or the mean points? Because in k-means, how do you do the k-means? So you first group a randomly selected centroids. You first need the mean points or the centroids, and then these are used as the beginning points in every cluster, and then it will just perform a repetitive calculation to optimize. Each time it will change the centroids, and based on the changed centroid or centers, you will change the data points position and do the clustering in that way. So these are just for legend, means it will just add the legend in the top. The asterisk is the centroid. X label, that is x-axis text, y label y-axis text, and the plot. To place it in a defined way, you are using the tight layout function. And this grid function will enable the lines within the plot, which is easier to visualize. Actually, what is the x-axis, y-axis value of each data point in the plot. And the show function is to show the plot in the output. So if you want to see the inertia, the distortion and the Silhouette values, then you can just use the variable names and you can just output it here. Okay. So the description of the inertia Silhouette score, I have added them into the Jupyter notebook file. Please refer them if you can download it, and you will be able to see the description as well. Now see, Suppose you have a huge data set and you have a set of or a range of inertia and Celotes scores. So how to actually visualize them and how do you make a decision looking at them? Okay. So to do that, here you see the two outputs. Okay. Are you seeing the screen? So here there is a plot for inertia. So for each number of clusters, the inertia value is plotted. Okay. So the first x-axis 2 value, the inertia value is somewhere in between. I think it will be 3000 something. I think so. And then for 4, it is less than 2000. So like this, the plot will give you a measure to understand what distortion values you are getting. Then in the same way, this code is similar to the last one I was showing. Here I am just plotting all the inertia and Celotes scores in the plot, in the format of a plot to visualize what decision we need to make. So see here, in the Celote coefficient plot, for each x-axis value 2 to 10, okay. So it is plotting certain values for the Celote coefficients. So looking at the plot, you need to decide which one is the best for our cluster determination. So if you see here, as per our method here, k equals to 2 should be chosen for the number of clusters. Okay, and this method is better as it makes the decision regarding optimal number of clusters more meaningful and clear. Okay, but sometimes this metric is considered as computationally expensive as the coefficient is calculated for every instance, and therefore decision regarding the optimal metric is to be chosen for the number of cluster decision is to be made according to the needs of the product. Okay, it depends on the data set and how you would like to visualize it. It is not something defined or strictly like you have to just implement this. There should be other methods you can also apply for determining clusters. It depends on what type of data set you are using or you want to analyze. So looking at this plot, you have to consider that the best result will be gotten by the number of cluster taking as 2, because the highest score of Celote coefficient is we are getting at the cluster number of clusters as 2. So here if I go to the code, you see that the cluster, so you need to assume how many times or for how many iterations you need to find out the Celote coefficients or inertia. So there is a range function in Python. So if you take the range as 1 to 10, so the code or the iteration will run for 1, starting with 1 and stops or end point as 10. So 1 up to 10 times this k-means algorithm, the k-means function will run and it will keep on calculating the inertia. Okay, and in the same for loop, this is a loop and it will go on how many number of times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 times it will run. And 10 for 10 times for in the range 1 to 11, you will define you will find out the inertia and the Celote score, and you will just use the same range function and plot them in the output. So this set of statements are able to plot them in the output in this way. Okay. So now we are going to see what is the limitation of k-means and how to overcome that. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a new data set. Okay, so this data set is non-spherical in the distribution. So if you see, this is a moon-like structure. So for handling non-spherical data, Sometimes it is difficult for k-means. So let's see that type of data. You are using a library makeMoons from the sklearn.datasets using the function makeMoons. You are having x2, y2 dataset. Using those values, you are just trying to plot it here. Now, this is your dataset. They are in different color, but is it is it uh, is it an efficient cluster determination or clustering? There are certain limitations. So let's see how to remove or overcome that limitation. So for the given dataset x2, y2, we are going to see how our inertia, the distortion and the Celote coefficient will look like. So in the same way, using this data set now, through this set of statements that you see, okay, you are having the k-means function in the for loop. You are trying to find out the inertia, Celote scores, and creating the figure for each plot. So first one is for distortion within the range 1 to 11. So as it is 1 to 11, you can see 1 to 10. So this is because you are having what type of range function. Then in the next picture, next plot, you are using the Celote values that you got from this state, and it is giving you the Celote coefficient plot in this way. So from here, what do you determine? How do you define the clusters? How many number of clusters do you want? So the highest Celote coefficient, the where the curve is actually happening. So this is the point at the number 2 cluster. Okay, so that you need to consider. So just define the cluster as 2 and taking that as a parameter in k-means, it will now make the clustering in this way with the centroids. But it is not efficient as well. So here some points are merging with each other, and from here you cannot say clearly that which point belong to which cluster. Okay. Now just calculating the Celote score for k-means. So as you remember, if for some data set the k-means is not helpful or efficient, so the which algorithm is best or most useful for non-spherical, then if you remember, it is your DBSCAN. Okay, so it best deals with the non-spherical data sets. Do you remember that your DBSCAN, okay, take this epsilon and the mean samples? If you look into the previous slide of the class that we are going through in Thursday's class, so epsilon and mean points. What is your epsilon? Epsilon specifies for a set of data points how close the points should be to each other to be considered as a part of cluster. It means that if the distance between 2 points is lower or equal to the value, that is the epsilon value, then those points are considered as neighbors. And the minimum number of points, they are used to form a dense region in the cluster. So if we set the min points as 5, then what does it mean? It means we need at least 5 points to form a dense region to form a cluster. So using those same epsilon and the mean samples, we are just creating our function. Just call the function. Don't have to do anything else. Just use the parameter and the function, then you are good to go. But to use the function, you need to import the library sklearn.cluster import dbscan. So dbscan function called epsilon set, mean sample set, and you want to find out the distance between the consecutive points. So a distance measure is supposed to be used. If you remember Euclidean distance, you have also done the assignment based on that Euclidean distance, correct? So we are using that metric Euclidean here. Okay, so that function will now give you the classifier dbScan classifier dbCLF. Using that dbCLF, you need to now fit the X2 dataset and you will get the predict value for in YDB. Now use those values in the scatter plot and then the points will be plotted in this way. Okay, that you see in the picture. And to some extent, which your k-means was not successful to distinguish the points in the cluster, somehow the dbScan is able to form the clustering in somewhat a better way. Okay, and you can see that there are certain points, those are red colors that you see in the picture. Do you remember what they can be based on dbScan? Do you remember outlier I was saying about, whose characteristics, the points whose characteristics are different to other points or more, they are more distant based on the parameters epsilon and mean samples. So those become the outliers in your data set. Okay, and outliers are not considered for analysis, but somewhat while doing analysis, the outliers will give you also some sort of understanding about your data set. Okay, so this is how practically, if we want to do the analysis using a program language, so there are defined libraries for it, and it's really easier to do it using the coding. Okay, so don't worry, I'm not going to give you any sort of assignment or test on this, but if you are really interested, because I know some of you are interested, because in the starting classes some students have spoken to me about their project, they are going to thinking about doing it later in future, so probably this will be helpful to you. Just install Jupyter Notebook. If you don't have time right now, you are taking multiple courses, try to spend some time over the summer. Just install. It will just take 10-15 minutes doing the installation and then practicing the code. If you are familiar to Python, it will be easier. If not, then that's fine. Python is not that difficult to learn actually. I need to go through something. Just give me a moment. I hope all of you have submitted the assignment one. If you have not submitted, take your time and don't take your time. So try to submit it as soon as possible. Okay. After grading, I'll post the grades, and one announcement also will be posted after the grading is being done. And also, I will make the solution available later. So be prepared for clustering. Okay, chapter 7 clustering. Soon I will be posting an announcement like the assignment one assignment, and you have to so prepare accordingly. And those clustering problem will be mostly based on k-means and dbScan. And additionally, one test will be also given like the first test. So the second test, it will include all the concepts beginning from the starting class up to clustering. So try to be prepared for that. I'm thinking to do it next Tuesday, so let's see how it goes. Okay. If due to some reason it gets postponed, then I will post an announcement that when we will have that. Just let's just wait until Thursday. Okay. I'll be posting the video soon.